Hey everybody. What's up, Lisa?
How are you, Brandon?
Good. Very good. How are you?
I'm great, thank you.
Good. I saw you 3 times today already.
Me 3 times?
I was watching some M6 calls.
Oh,
You had some good wins. Good
yeah.
wins. And there was a good question in there too. You had a really good win with the coordination chart.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. That thing is just mind-blowing how much people get better with after they do that. And even when they can't do it and get super frustrated, they still get better with their retests.
Yeah, I love when that happens.
Yeah,
It's like, wow, you're terrible at this.
yeah.
But you got way better, so let's keep doing it.
Let's keep doing it.
I usually don't say you're terrible at this, only with people that I have good rapport with.
Right, right, right.
I've been training a guy. He's like in his early 60s, on the verge of retiring, just sold his business, and so he's like living life, loving it.
Yeah,
And he's a big time athlete. And I did the coordination chart with him. But he's one of those guys that like we have really good rapport. We can, jest each other quite a bit.
yes.
And yeah, he did the coordination chart and it was like uh, and I'm like, "Hey, Cro-Magnon, you Neanderthal, like let's get this going. Like I don't have all day. What are you doing?" He thought
Speaking
that
of
was pretty funny.
coordination charts and those games, do you have those
Blaze
light up,
pods.
what are they called?
Blaze pods.
You have them or can you
I
recommend?
don't have them, but I have used them before in um we actually used them in college. A friend of mine bought them. And so we would do like speed and agility drills with them,
Yeah. Yeah.
knowing nothing about neuro at all. But they were fun.
Yeah, I would think they were. I was thinking about getting
Yeah.
them for Tahoe for to play with my grandkids, but also to use them to train. So I
Yeah.
know if I'll just look on Amazon and see because I know that there's different color.
You,
I think, do you want two colors? Do you want a bunch of colors? Like what should I
I
look?
mean, it's nice to have the option.
Yeah,
Um, I would, when you have the option, you can progress and regress
right.
much more.
Right.
But yeah, I'm just looking at the Blaze pods right now.
Thank you.
Oh, they got a whole quiz. I don't want to take the quiz. Come on.
Come on, you love those quizzes.
What describes me best? Competitive athlete, enthusiast, sports coach, trainer. I'm all. I don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna say like you're every one of those.
Let's say sports coach. What do you usually train? Pretty much everything at this point. I see football more than anything. Let's say that. Main goals. Winning more games. Yeah. Let's say standing out from other coaches. I'm just gonna say winning more games. How many people will be training? Okay. So this is like one person, 2 to 4, or 5+ people. So you could do them in groups. Let's see what the groups one looks like. 5+. Where do you coach? Outdoors at 110 degrees.
Amazon, this thing, or are you doing it on Blaze Pods?
This is on the Blaze Pods website.
Okay.
Claim your discount. Okay. Yeah. Put your email in. I agree to receive your stupid marketing content until I unsubscribe. Wow. Okay, the trainer kit, which comes with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pods and a little carrying case, is $439.
Wow.
The trainer bundle, which looks like it just comes with these cones, the pods, and some cones that the pods can sit in, I guess, is $586.
Ooh,
Ultimate Trainer bundle has got some other gadgets for $800.
Crazy.
Yeah, that seems a little much. I'm sure
yeah.
you can go on Amazon and find a worthy competitor for much less. But super fun tools. And I like that you can use them alone, like by yourself. You don't need a coach, right? Because
Yeah.
that's the thing with go, no go drills is you kind of need someone to tell you to go or not go. A really easy and really cost effective option is oh no, what the heck is the name of the app? I'm totally blanking right now. Um, and I don't have it on this phone. Um, it starts with an S, I thought. Yeah, it's not on here. There's another app that you can use it to like flash different colors or different shapes, and it's the same type of deal, but it's just on one phone. So you don't have different places to put it. So it makes it a little more not
Okay.
as wide ranging. I'm gonna look up waist pods on here and see.
There is a Apple app called Go No Go.
Yeah, so it's probably something like that. I don't think that's the actual one, but that sounds like a pretty good
Hmm.
point. I'm gonna have to ask Matt what that app is. I'm pretty sure the app that he recommends is a um, former student of theirs that
Oh,
developed it.
cool.
I just looked up Go No Go, and all I got is Capybara Go, Pokemon Go, Go Quest, Monopoly Go. Holy goodness. I don't know.
Okay.
I'll
Well,
ask him. Um, but
there
on
I just saw one that said reaction time test. Test your reaction time. It's got a lightning bolt. Is that what?
yeah, that's probably just like button, then click the button really fast or something. Different
Yeah.
ways to test your reaction time.
Yeah. Hmm.
There may be options for like setting it up for go, no go type things, but
Okay.
um,
We can ask. I'll ask Matt.
yeah.
And I'll
There's
look. Okay.
on Amazon Reflex RLT reaction time training lights, $150 for 5 of the pods with all of the options. So that's a much better deal
Yeah.
than 400.
Yeah, for sure.
Matt is like the ultimate at finding deals, so we should ask him.
Okay.
Like that's like one of his hobbies is just finding the best prices on anything.
Okay.
He gets like 10 pairs of shoes at a time for like $5 a pair.
And then he sells them.
I don't know if he sells them or he just keeps them. He's like, I don't have to buy shoes for 10 years.
Oh my gosh. That's awesome.
He
Okay.
is he's a deal hunter. So he's always a good person to ask when you're looking for deals.
Okay.
Huh. Um, cool. Yeah. Anyway, I'm teaching on the frontal lobe today, so I did a lot of research and yeah, you had some good wins. That was cool.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Kate, got your chat. Glad you're here in spirit. Enjoy your multitasking. Good luck. Cool. Yeah. So what's up, guys? What's going on today? How we feeling? What's new in your neuro world?
Lisa, did you say something about a win? I missed that.
No, well, I had to win the Can you hear me? I don't even know
Yeah.
if I'm on. I had a win and on the coordination charts, and it's so funny because I have clients that get super frustrated when they do them, and I'm like, oh my God, they're terrible at it, but then they test so much better, and it's just crazy. So I just love the coordination charts.
Yeah, I haven't used it much and I need to, but I always get clunky. I get clunky. Like, you know,
But
Hmm.
do you test after you do it? Because even though you're clunky, it might really retest well.
yeah. Well, that's what I need to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you might try it with a metronome.
Ooh.
No.
Mm,
Yeah. Um, the metronome's interesting because the coordination chart, our basic version of it is we're kind of testing your frontal lobe.
mhm.
And the frontal lobe is supposed to plan and initiate movement. And with your visual system, with the coordination chart, it's supposed to see the symbol and the line and then make a decision about the movement that needs to happen. If it's on the right of the line, oh, I got to move my right hand. If it's in the middle, both, right? So it has to make that decision. So when it's delayed or it's clunky, there could be a frontal lobe issue. Okay. It could also be a visual processing thing. But regardless, when you add in the metronome, you're adding in a lot of cerebellum to that task. And it's a specific pathway in the brain called the um, cortical olivary cerebellar pathway.
Mm.
Okay. And that's yeah, a lot of words, but olivary meaning olive. There is a place in your brain near the midbrain and the brainstem, maybe even lower, like in the medulla and the PMRF, called there's two of them, superior and inferior olive. I don't know why it's called olive. Maybe it's shaped like an olive, but
Mhm.
why not call it an egg or I don't know. But anyway,
Scary.
it's called the olive. Maybe it's colored olive green. I don't know. Anyway, it lives there, and what it does, at least the inferior olive, is one of its responsibilities is um, processing and matching our movements and stuff with external timing. So when we listen to music and we tap our foot, do 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 do, that's the inferior olive with the cerebellum helping you do that. And then the frontal lobe's obviously involved in like, I want to tap my foot. Okay, let's start tapping my foot. It decides to do it. That pathway with the cerebellum helps you keep the time. Boom, boom, boom. The nice thing about using a metronome, at least for your frontal lobe, is it takes away one of the decisions you have to make, i.e., trying to time the movement. Now you have the metronome, the external feedback that tells you right when you need to make it. Boom, 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 boom. So it, in a sense, can make it actually a little easier to use a metronome. And because it's still very frontal lobe heavy, you're not taking away any of the frontal lobe activation when you add in all that cerebellum activation and stuff.
If
So the brain is amazing. So it clicks something initiates it before you think which way to move. It initiates that you need to move and move now.
Right. In this scenario, yeah, you don't, the frontal lobe, which can kind of get a little, if it's not activated properly or if it's having some trouble, you might have some delays in movement or not quite making the right shape or the right movement, or in this case, the delay and then the it's almost like a second guessing.
Mhm.
Do I do it now or you know what I mean? Because that frontal lobe might not be inhibiting unwanted movement, or it might be just not have activated properly, or it could be, this is a weird one, but hyperactive, which oftentimes happens in the case of like ADHD. their frontal lobe can become hyperactive and the rest of their brain is kind of like meh. In that case, then they're like second guessing and kind of, I don't know, should I go now? Do I need to move here? And their movement can become a little ratchety or clunky. So adding in that cerebellum activation and then taking away that decision so they know when to time it with the rhythm can also really help to, it's really a balancing act, right? I'm trying to balance out brain function. So one side's not way too high, one side's low. So it can help with that too. Lisa, did you have a question there?
Well, I was gonna say, if you are timing it with the metronome and you miss the, the click, do you then wait for the next click so that you're on the time versus trying to like,
Probably, yeah.
yeah, put it in there? Okay. Because I
Hmm.
was having them do squats on the coordination chart, squat, like the one that has the numbers and the different figures, circles, squares, stars. So I'd have them squat, point to one, squat, point to two, and they'd squat and couldn't find three. And they're like, okay, do I stay there or do I keep squatting into the beat? There wasn't
Mm-hmm.
a metronome, but like the beat of what they were squatting at. I said, no,
Yeah,
keep squatting until you find it.
yeah. In that scenario, yes, I would keep them squatting.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, yep. And the metronome would be really helpful there too, because they don't
I'll
have to
check
think
that
about
out.
the squat.
Yeah.
They just do
Mm-hmm.
it. And they
Yeah.
can spend more energy on finding the numbers.
Yeah. Sometimes I do play with the metronome a lot, especially with the letter ball, that I'll have
Mm.
them lay on the ground and like take the ball up over and do different like words that correspond with the letter. And it's so fun. And some people
Mm.
are so good and some people are so bad. It's kind of frightening.
Yeah, like you're out there in the world driving cars and making
Yes.
decisions.
Yes.
Your brain's only half working.
Yes. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
it really is.
metronome is fun. It just adds a whole nother fun element to it too, or
Yeah.
So
frustration.
what kind of therapist are you, Lisa?
I teach Pilates though, and then I also do personal training, but now I'm just adding so much neuro to it, and it's just absolutely fascinating.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, you probably have a beautiful body, huh?
I don't
Seriously.
know. I wish my granddaughter asked me when I was gonna have my baby. Her mom was having a baby in the hospital. She goes, "Lovey, are you pregnant too? Do you have a baby in your tummy too?" I was like, "Oh, gotta work a little harder."
No. Oh, kids. What's
That's
the
a question when you get to be a young adult, you learn not to ask.
yeah, that's that frontal lobe inhibition.
Gotta have her do some coordination charts, that little 4-year-old.
Not gonna help.
Yeah,
Frontal lobe's not even there. Not even
right?
developed yet. Yeah. She might have fun with it though. But as far as
I
like
love it.
inhibiting
Yeah.
those comments, yeah, probably that's just kids. Somebody told me, or I saw it on Instagram or something. What was the saying? It was like you as a parent, your job is to be your child's frontal lobe.
That's a
Oh,
good one. Yes,
Yeah.
for
I
sure.
like that.
Yeah, because they just don't have one.
Yeah.
So inhibiting thoughts and things, their
Yeah.
filters are just not there and they don't, It's kind of nice not having a frontal lobe because then you don't second guess things and you don't have all this self-doubt and inner critic and all that stuff. That's all frontal lobe stuff too. You're
Wow.
not out there playing.
Inner critic. Wow.
Kate says it's one of the most exhausting parts of parenting.
Huh?
Yes, I could see that. Yeah. Yep. Um, shoot.
Essentially keeping them alive,
Yeah, yeah.
for at least 25 years, at least I've found in my
Mm-hmm.
experience. At least that's where I'm at right now, 25
And
years.
then they can maybe go take care of
Progressively,
themselves. Yeah.
progressively, but sometimes you're still shaking your head.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. I have some family members in their mid 20s and late 20s even who still need some help in those areas. Like really? That's the decision we're gonna make. Not much thought went into that. No, 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 no. Okay.
Boys, right?
No, actually, girls.
Whoa,
Yeah.
that's late for us.
Yeah, I think a big part of it has to do with the coddling of the American mind. To
Hmm.
just drop the full title of a book that talks about this subject in depth. It's a great book, by the way. The Coddling of the American Mind by Jonathan Haidt, and I forget the other author's name. But he's the guy that wrote The Anxious Generation. That's his newest book. That's getting huge amount of, well, it was a few months ago, publicity, and he's a big proponent of getting phones out of the hands of teenagers until they're, I mean, his he says at least 16. I would say 21, but I know that's not really realistic. And I know my kids are probably going to end up with some kind of device in their teenage years, but we'll see. I think a lot's going to change before that happens, before my kids get to teenage years. But yeah, it's pretty alarming in the statistics in those books about mental health for kids and how much it's declined since the advent of social media and suicide rates and geez, if you just look at how many, young adults are still living at home and just not even interested in taking steps to, leave the nest. It's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. And again, like you can't put the full blame on the kids, right? A lot of it is the parenting and this like helicopter parenting that came out of the um big, huge media scares of the 24-hour news cycle and these like abductions that were publicized in the 80s and early 90s. Remember the milk cartons kids?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of one of his big examples is like when those became circulating everywhere and every night on the news they were talking about more kids being abducted, kidnapped, or killed, whatever else. And then, not that school shootings are not a huge problem or were. Actually, they've been declining like crazy recently. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but school shootings have gone way down. We don't even hear about them anymore, really. I mean, there's been a few this year that I've heard about, but um, it's really interesting. But anyway, that with the milk carton kids and everything else, like parents just became like hyper vigilant about protecting their kids. And it makes sense, they were just being inundated with bad news. Um, and that is kind of the beginning of what led to this coddling of kids and how everybody's so overprotected that they can't even go to the post office by themselves and mail a letter. They're too afraid. And it's really sad, really sad. But yeah, he's a big researcher in that realm and proponent of autonomy and independence for children. And he had one lady on his social media like a few months ago, probably, and she was just like became a pariah, like murdered in the media for letting her kid take the subway home in New York, letting her kid, 7-year-old kid, get on the subway and find his way home.
Mm.
And he did. He was fine. And all of social media and like all these news organizations are like, you are a terrible parent. You are going to hell. I can't believe you like, and it was like the middle of the day, there was this kid. Well, and the outcome, here was the craziest, coolest thing that I thought was like this kid was so empowered. And when he got home, like so confident that he could like do anything, right? It gave this kid so much self-esteem And like he just went on a crazy cool adventure and he accomplished it. He reached the end, the treasure, whatever. And you just think about like what's that going to do for that kid now? The amount of confidence that he just built doing that. And was there risks? Of course. There's always risks. But I don't know. I think it's and then you start seeing there's more parents doing this. Like one recently, that's a pretty extreme example, like riding the New York subway. I've been on the New York subway a few times and it's pretty gross. And I don't like riding it. Like I'm scared going on it sometimes.
I myself, I'm scared going on
Yeah.
it.
But it's not like it was like Manhattan. It was in a
Uh,
more like suburban area. It was outside of the, the city. So much, much safer area, right? And it wasn't like an hour-long train ride. So, she controlled for as much of that as she could. But anyway, later on, I saw another one. This kind of like mom influencer just let her 9-year-old son go into a grocery store and just grab some groceries. And she sat out in the car and like filmed herself. And she was visibly like white knuckling the armchair or the arm on the chair. And she was having a really hard time with it. And he came out and again, the same thing. The kid was like so proud of himself. He couldn't shut up about it to his mom. And it's like, man, that is so valuable for that kid. And we as parents just rob them of that when we don't allow them to go out and figure shit out. Like when I was a kid, I mean, I grew up in the mountains. My backyard was the national forest. So, and my dad was old school. He's like, if you're going to be loud in the house, get the hell out of the house. Don't come back until you're calm. And so we'd spend 8 hours wandering the forest with the mountain lions and the bears, right? Building forts, jumping off rocks. Like, not gonna lie, I got hurt a lot. Like crawling back to the house with a bleeding leg. He's like, what happened? Find a bobcat again? No, I found this motorcycle and I drove it through a barbed wire fence. That actually happened once. He's like, well, guess we'll go get some stitches and it'll be all right. I mean, no, I didn't grow up in Southside Chicago where you walk outside and you're, you know, likely to get shot. But I also grew up with bears in my yard and mountain lions at night, killing things outside my window. Also really happened.
mm,
So what do you do? The world is a scary place. Doesn't matter where you are. It's not any scarier than it used to be. That's the key. Where it's actually much, much safer than it has ever been. That's what they don't tell you. If you want to look into that, read some of Steven Pinker's work. Better Angels of Our Nature, I believe, is the book about. Come on. Scratching, scratching, scratching. That's the book about like human progress over the past few hundred years, or maybe even longer, but how crime rates have dropped dramatically. Like hunger, all of the big things that the media would tell you is sending us all to hell and the earth's going to explode any day now are really just sensationalized propaganda. If I had to give it a word, usually driving some kind of agenda to sell things. That's very oversimplified and yeah, whatever. But it's kind of, it's the world we've been living in for the past, 40 years. Once those 24-hour news cycles really kicked into high gear and yeah, it's been going on for a lot longer, but we're more
I think that you grew up within the last 40 years. I think you were fortunate to have the environment where your father, could do those kinds of things. And you learned a lot. It helped shape who you are. I
Yeah.
ran into somebody the other day. They said that I guess they were a teenager and they went out and got drunk and came in at 5 in the morning. And that they at that time they had a farm. And so the father said, okay, well, let's go on and let's bale this hay. So they worked for hours. And then father said, okay, well, you can go and get up something to eat and rest a minute. And she ate, rested for about an hour, and father got back up and said, okay, now let's go milk the cows.
Yeah.
Now, guess who never came home drunk again?
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. That's yeah. That
We had a
sounds
lot of clean cars when my son was home. It was 4 car washes. Chris would give him 10 minutes between each one to go lay down. It was great. My cars were really clean.
awesome. Yeah, that's great. That's yeah.
So I have a question on the frontal lobe. If you were, I mean, I
Yeah.
guess it depends, and I know you're going to say it depends, but like I know somebody who's dealing with like total self-doubt, total inner critic, afraid to do anything,
Mm,
isn't going to college like for a few different reasons. And like her parents went up to somebody and said, oh, you like her friend worked at this restaurant and the parents went up and said, oh, hey, I'd love to get my daughter a job here. And she was like, you can't do that. She's like so she doesn't have any self-confidence. So if you were going to give frontal lobe activation to like what's a powerful one, or does it depend?
well, there's many things that it could depend on, but here's a good general layout. First, I would follow the frontal lobe or the inhibition ladder.
Okay.
Okay, from a purely neuro perspective, if you want her if you want to help her make better decisions or make a decision,
Okay.
then we need proper activation of the frontal lobe, and we need connection of back and front of brain. So what it sounds like she's dealing with is an overactive or hyperactive frontal lobe.
Okay.
Like her inner critic and her self-monitoring and self-doubt and stuff is like running amok.
Okay.
And there may be a little bit of like emotional stuff going on in there too, with like some limbic escape type things when she's forced with a hard decision, and then her frontal lobe just like shuts off and her limbic brain, her emotional brain takes over.
Okay.
Then there's no decision going to be made.
Okay.
Or it's going to be a completely 100% emotional decision without any reason or logic. And that's probably not good either.
Yeah.
So I would follow the inhibition ladder, okay, which, inhibition or nervous system regulation if needed, right? So maybe some inhibition tools to get her calmed down and then building up from there. So making sure she's fueled with glucose and oxygen, maybe some breathing drills, maybe some OJ. Hey, Sandra. And then sensory, okay? All sensory, all movement, all vision, vestibular training, breathing, all good sensory inputs. Maybe some interoceptives type stuff, which those all are included in interoception, right? But the awareness of the feeling of those things, you add that interoceptive layer to it. She might need that. It sounds, like that might be a little bit missing with her.
Okay.
And then integration, infinity walks, compass lunges, any complex movement, like your regular workout stuff.
Okay.
And then frontal lobe activation. Lastly,
Okay.
and you can do frontal lobe activation a couple different ways. You can use vision.
Okay.
All voluntary visual movement is frontal lobe driven.
Mhm.
You can use any voluntary movement, especially complex nonlinear movement, and especially novel movement. So if it's something that they're not super skilled at.
Okay.
And then stuff like the coordination chart, go, no-go drills, like the blaze pods, the Stroop test, which some of these are more of that inhibition part of the frontal lobe. Anti-saccades, again, more inhibition from the frontal lobe. So activating that way. For her, that might be really useful, the inhibition stuff.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
so that's the latter. And then the other thing that's really helpful for someone like that in a global sense and for getting her into a state of being where she can actually think clearly and make decisions based on her gut, her intuition, and what she really wants,
Mhm.
is to get her into flow. Now, when you find yourself in flow, your brain is like on tilt. You remember the old pinball games?
Yeah.
And if you knock it, like it goes on tilt, and then all the lights light up at once. That's kind of how I view flow states. It's not totally accurate because part of your frontal lobe actually shuts down. You guys remember that term, transient hypofrontality? Transient meaning short-lived, hypo meaning less, frontality, frontal lobe activation. Short-term drop in frontal lobe activation. Specifically the areas of self-referential thinking, self-criticism, and self-doubt, and inhibition and self-monitoring. Not self-monitoring, sorry, inhibition, self-doubt, inner critic, those type of things. They shut down. So that inner critic that won't shut up and all that self-doubt that won't shut up and which is leading to like too much inhibition, she can't do anything. Definitely not make a decision. All that is lowered in flow. So it just opens the door for her to actually like feel good about herself, not have those things in her way, and go, yeah, actually, I think that's what I want. Okay, so that is super powerful for helping her get in touch with her, higher self in this new state of being and make a decision. However, that decision has to be reviewed in a sober state. Okay. And ideally with the help of someone who has her best interest in mind, that like knows a little bit about life, right? Because in that flow state, when your inhibition's really lowered, you can be prone to grandiosity and yeah, you don't think a lot about consequences sometimes. So we'll take an example of like a writer. Like if I'm in flow and I'm writing, I might have like the most amazing ideas in the moment, and they're incredible in my brain. But then I never just press send or post. I always have to look at it when I'm out of the flow state and be like, read it with sober eyes and be like, okay, tone it down, Kimosabi. Like that's a little out there. Like, let's reword this a little bit, make it more salient and palatable for the rest of the world, right? Because when your inhibitions are totally gone, like the farthest flung connections can happen, and you can come up with these seemingly brilliant, inspirational, ideas, these moments of huge inspiration, but they need a little bit more. Um, it reminds me of this book, I think it's called Rocket Fuel, about building businesses and how there's kind of two types of leaders in a business. There's the operational leader, the ops person, and then the COO, and then there's the visionary. You need both. They could be the same person, but usually they're not. Usually you need the visionary who has the ideas and like the vision. Like they might be grandiose. They might be like out there, but they're driven and they have that vision. But the ops person is gonna be like, okay, buddy, that's great. but can we actually make this happen, right? And they're going to put the things in place where they need to be. They're going to, they're a little bit more, type A is not the right way to phrase it, but you guys understand what I'm kind of saying? Like, there's the creative, the visionary type, and then there's the grounded in real world kind of operations manager type. Your brain kind of works that way too, hemispherically, as we've traditionally been taught. Um, but sometimes one part can kind of take over, and that's not good. You're out of balance. So for her, finding that flow state, it kind of brings balance back a little bit because she's so stuck in the like operational side and that inner critic that is really important to keep her protected from making bad decisions is just running amok. She needs to get in touch with that like creative, fun play side of flow. That will help her make a decision. And you can help her do that by following that ladder and then helping her getting into flow. Do you need some ideas on how to help someone get into flow? Okay.
Please, please.
Okay. This is awesome. So I don't know if we've really been specific about application yet. So this will be great. First of all, I would do an audit, a flow audit. Okay. And in that, I'm just maybe interviewing her a little bit, asking her some questions about times in life when she's been in flow. However you want to describe the state is great. It could be as simple as, tell me about the times in the past 3 months when you've had the most fun. And she's probably going to describe some times where she might have found some flow. Then you can use those as kind of markers to figure out what the triggers are for her. Is it always at like concerts? Okay, so music's a big trigger for you. Good. Let's use music. You're just going to list out those triggers. Different, maybe is she in school? She's out of school.
She's not going back to college. She's
Okay.
taking a break from college.
So maybe we can workshop this a little bit. Is this helpful for everybody if we workshop this a little bit with Lisa? Kinda, yeah. Okay.
I know I came in late. Could you give me one sentence about the person? Just so I have a little.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna workshop. So Lisa has a friend, she's a young woman, and she's kind of paralyzed about making the next decision for her life. Like not going back to college, doesn't want to take a job that her mom kind of like, hey, can she work here? And she was like, oh my God, no. Kind of like that really scared failure to launch type scenario. Because we had been talking about the coddling of kids and how they grow up and they are not leaving home and this kind of phenomenon that's happening right now. So that's kind of the pretext. And then, so we want her to help her make a decision for her future. So the inhibition first ladder, because we want good frontal lobe activation for her to make a good decision, right? Inhibition first ladder, all the way up to frontal lobe activation was 1, and then flow states is 2. And so now we're talking about how do we find flow states for this young woman, excuse me. She's not going back to school. What does she do? What does she love to do? Does she have anything that she enjoys doing?
She's an athlete, so she played soccer and lacrosse, and she was really good at it. But obviously now she's not playing because she's not in high school anymore, and she's not going to college, so she's not doing that.
No intramural or rec leagues or anything?
I don't think so. I think that her
Okay.
parents taking out of college is kind of like a little bit depressing for her because there's an eating disorder that
Oh, okay.
she's pulled away from college.
Okay. So that needs to be dealt with. It's not like the main thing, but it is a main thing, right? That's a top priority, and because of how it's going to affect her brain. Like number 2 on the ladder is fuel, right? So the best way that we could help her as coaches and friends is to help her get her brain to a place where she can make the best decision. Okay, so what I would do to work around the eating disorder And because she's an athlete and everything, I would get her into a rec league. Okay. I need
Okay.
her to start finding some flow in her life. That's going to help with her depression. It's going to
Okay.
get her out of the house. She's going to be getting more social connection in a way that she is really confident at. She's skilled at. That's important. Now, this rec league stuff could be fine to maybe find some flow, but it's a little harder because she probably needs a little bit of competition. So maybe she's competitive by nature and she'll just get out there on the field and she'll create her own competition. And that can be great as long as it's not like she's out there fighting people and stuff, right? But a little healthy competition with herself and with the others can help her increase the challenge so that she finds flow. That's all I care about, like her finding flow. Now, a really good idea for you as a coach, if you were to coach her in this scenario, is to get her around that flow state. So maybe you have like a conversation with her right after an awesome soccer match when she's feeling high and in flow. If you can time that, that's amazing.
Okay.
Okay. Then you do some of those frontal lobe drills to just really get her brain at peak efficiency and activation. And then you have that conversation. That's a little tricky with timing and everything else, but if you can do it, it'd be great. Okay, the other option is like in a structured training environment, you use soccer drills to get her into flow. Like just suit, she might even have, you might even just ask her, what are some like dribbling drills or like a soccer game thing where it's like a shooting practice or something that you really like to do, that you're really good at, that you enjoy doing during your time playing soccer. That's a clue, right? And that might be a quick way for her to find some flow in your session. You do that for 10 to 15 minutes until you see that she's like starting to click. You know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see it. She's like, oh, damn, she's like picking it up. Like, this is good. Okay. You do your drills, you do that, maybe that soccer little training session for 10 to 15 minutes. And then you probably do some more frontal lobe drills, like coordination chart, some higher like skill level ones, like the coordination chart, where you're challenging her. Okay. But she's also succeeding. Again, challenge, skills, balance. If we can do that, we're going to help her find flow. And then you have that conversation, or you have her journal about it for even like 5 minutes. Set a timer, have her just write for 5 minutes, and she'll probably come to some kind of decision. It'll click. It'll just be like, that's what I want to do. It was there all along. And it's her decision. It's not yours, right?
Right. Right. Um, how about would coaching like lacrosse or soccer, like younger girls, would that be a helpful thing, or it's more that she has
Maybe.
to do it herself?
You could suggest her looking into that, but maybe.
It's more, okay, got it.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know.
I think the challenge for her is that if she joins a recreation, people will be like, why aren't you in college? And then that's like, she's like so afraid someone's going to ask her that she won't even go out of the house during the weekday,
Yeah,
because someone's going to ask her and call her, like, and she just doesn't know how to deal with it.
sure. Yeah, I mean, she just needs to workshop an answer.
Yeah.
She needs
Yeah.
a canned answer
Yeah.
for anybody. Yeah, that's easy.
Right.
She just can't think of one at the moment because her brain is
Yeah.
not functioning really well. But
Yeah.
if she can find a canned answer, then she'll have a little bit more confidence to get out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did her parents take her out, or she decided to go out by herself?
Her parents took her out initially, and she's been working with a counselor that specializes in eating disorders. And her counselor basically made it be her decision to not go back. But I think it's her parents' decision, but she came to the decision to not go back on her own. And she's super sad. She's a freshman down at, in Santa Barbara. And
That's
yeah,
really tricky.
yeah, it's super tricky.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
and they're
you,
not helicopter parents. They are not, they're like, you can fly across the world by yourself. You figure it out. They are not those type of parents, So I don't
but you
think the
can't.
modeling thing is, I don't know. I don't know what it is.
Well,
Well, go ahead, Sandra.
I was just wondering, because it seemed like you downplayed it before, but the eating disorder may be a central
Yeah,
factor in all of
Oh,
this.
for sure. For sure. I didn't really downplay it. I was just like,
I
dang,
did.
I think,
I didn't mean to, but
yeah,
I kind of glazed over it a little bit, but you're totally right. It's a huge,
100%.
huge piece. Huge, huge, huge.
100%.
And
And it's,
just the psychological piece, but
yeah,
the fuel piece for sure too.
yeah.
Can I
Yeah.
So,
say something too here?
Yeah.
And pardon me if I missed this. I am listening, but I was multitasking. Um, you know, Sometimes the body dysmorphia piece can also be related to vision deficits or interoceptive deficits too. So she
Mhm.
might have a lot of things going on that are really kind of mixing up her signals and even helping contribute to that.
yeah,
Um, and she's really feeling that lockdown shutdown, like what Brandon was saying with a lot of the frontal lobe. But if she can't get to that part yet, you know, kind of like a lot of the more activating drills, that's not like the vagus nerve calmer down drills, but more of the sensory, the proprioceptive things, the movement, the burst breathing, like that might ladder her up. But sometimes, at least with a few of the people that I know, and some of the other things um, that I've gone through trainings for, a lot of the time it can be vision and interoceptive. Just there's no real great feeling. She might be feeling like she's full all the time, like all of those signals,
yeah.
or that body dysmorphia piece begins really tricky. And I guess it's going to be hard to motivate her, right? If she's sad that she's not with her peers and doing what she wanted, it's like
Yeah.
hard
It's
to
really,
find a balance. It's a
really,
tough spot for her.
I know. I was hoping that maybe she could go to the community college nearby, but I don't know that she wants to do that either. So she's just kind of doing nothing, which is
Yeah,
really,
you can't nothing. You don't have to go to college, but
no, like get a job. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's the really hard position that she's in. Like doing nothing is not gonna help you figure anything out.
Mhm.
Right, I just had a call with a friend of mine's younger brother. He's 27 years old and he's working construction. He was in the army and he went to Ranger Company, like solid dude, really talented, super smart, and he's working construction full time, but he's like, I don't want to wake up 10 years from now and still be working construction, right? I don't know what to do with my life, and he's got a ton of angst around it. And my wrap up, like we had an hour-long conversation. I love this kid to death. I've worked with him before, and I really see a lot of myself in him. So I was just like giving my time to a friend, right? And at the end of the day, the outcome of the conversation was like, listen, you're fine. You're doing great. Like, don't let anybody tell you that you have to be somewhere at some time in life, right? Like, I didn't go back to get my master's degree until I was 27. I didn't start studying neuro until I was 34, 33, something like that. Like, I didn't figure out my purpose, right? Until my kids were born. I thought I had it figured out, but I was sorely mistaken. Like there were some things, yeah, I'm still very passionate about and I have a lot of purpose in that, but wow, did it not really kick into high gear until I had those kids. Not saying go have kids, but what I am saying is go explore. That's the only responsibility you have right now, is to explore all of the things that light you up. And eventually, when you continue going down these different rabbit holes and paths, you'll find something, just a little spark, and it will build over time and start to snowball as other things you find like, are synergistic with that. It's curiosities that start to overlap. That's what creates passion. And then when you tie that passion to something bigger than yourself, that's what creates purpose. And each step along this way, you get more neurochemicals in your brain, which all add to intrinsic drive. That's when you get motivation for free. So the first step in that is just following your curiosities. That's it. It's not more complicated than that at all. Reading books that you're curious about, going out and trying things. Like I'm going to a systemic class next week.
Oh my God, Chris will be so happy.
Because a friend and client of mine practices Russian martial arts called Systema. And there's a thing nearby, and I've been wanting to do a martial art for a long time. So I'm like, well, I'm curious. Let's go see. Maybe I do one class. Maybe I do it for the next 50 years of my life. I don't know. But that's the thing. You're just following your curiosities.
So I wonder if young people feel like that they have to make a decision. This is what I'm going to do the rest of my life, when, as we all know, just as you very well stated, I mean, I never knew I would do many of the things that I did, but I started doing something. And then
Yeah.
it leads to something. You meet somebody, they say that one thing to you, you might not ever see them again, and you go that way.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe she just does not have a realistic, along with the eating thing, a
That's probably
realistic view of the future as an adult.
that's probably pretty accurate. I seem to see that play out. They have, and a lot of that blame goes on social media and, you know, even legacy media about ideals and the way that things should be. It's bogus. Go ahead, Sandra, and then I got to run to teach it.
Yeah, I was just saying there are some people who know and just and
Yeah,
it can be intimidating, but they're the minority, I think.
they are the minority. I have friends like that, and they piss me off because I had to go searching and explore all this stuff, and they just knew. Sometimes it works out that way. Sometimes they get what's called identity foreclosure, where they were given an identity. Like, here's the family business. This is what you're going to do. And they're like, yeah, that's what I've always wanted to do, was take over the family business until I'm 55. And then I'm like, holy shit, what did I do with my life? Now I got a new girlfriend and a sports car. That's the midlife crisis. What I told this kid, and what you might maybe tell this girl, is that, listen, you can have an identity crisis right now. It's called a quarter life crisis. It's totally fine. Lots of people have it. It just means that you need to do more exploring to figure out who you are and who you want to be. And then you start creating that person. And in all of that is all the curiosities, finding what lights you up. But doing nothing is not an option. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you. This was a great conversation.
Guys, thank you so much.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate everybody's opinion or input.
Yeah,
Bye.
this was awesome.
Bye.
I will
Thank
see
you.
you around the bend. And yeah, thanks for being here. All right. Bye, everybody.